welcome back to another episode of After Further Review, brought to you by our boys at Going for Two. We got Kaylin as always, and Shane has stopped by. He's going to stick with us here for the first half of the show at least.
Yeah.
We're going to cover a bunch of stuff. We got lots of hot topics going on right now. All the playoffs starting, and NBA, NHL, J start. We're going to cover it all. So let's get it started, boys.
Hell yeah, baby. Playoff time. I can actually partake in the conversation, as you can see, dressed head to toe in my Devil's gear. We'll certainly get to that in a little bit. Shane, it's been a little bit since I've seen you on the show. How you been, man?
You know what? I've been trying to come to the realization of a 16-year run being over. So today was one of those, actually, it really started yesterday or 2 days ago, but it was just one of those reminiscing moments, and 3 cups in 16 years. I think it might be time to just tear the bricks down and see where they lay.
Well, yeah, it's funny, because usually every other year, if we were sitting here with Kaylin, it'd be the other way around. If both our teams would be in the playoffs, and he would be sitting on the other side. So, with Montreal obviously not having a chance this year, I was really pulling hard for the Penguins. This is the first time, not even just for them not making the playoffs, but first time in 16 years that we haven't had a Ovechkin or Crosby in the playoffs. So it kind of feels like a changing of the guard in a sense, with obviously what McDavid's done this year. But to see both those guys not make it, it's really disappointing. And one of the things, obviously Calgary is my second team. I live here, and kind of what we both share in common, Shane, is that we both lost to Chicago.
Right.
Which we gotta win that game. You have to win that game. And Pittsburgh and Calgary pretty much both controlled their destiny with the game against fucking Chicago, and they both lost them. So you got no one to blame but yourself when you lose to Chicago at the end of the year like that.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. So there were so many worse losses than that. Because that Chicago one, the Penguins played really well in that game. Just Chicago's goalie kind of stood on his head there, and for some reason, the Penguins struggle against teams with speed, and if there's something that Chicago still has, it's a little bit of team speed. So,
yeah,
I guess, would you rather lose in this fashion or go into the first round and play Boston? I guess right now, just take your lumps and move on. It's baseball and draft season.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's I believe in this format. Anybody who's gonna have to play Boston, it'd be difficult. But if there's any team that I think you're gonna give them a run, regardless, it would have been an experienced Penguins team. So I think it's just still tough to see them not get in. But like I said, we can talk more about the Devils because they got a big game tonight as well. You still got a chance to finish in first place, do you not?
Hold on.
They're going to get cupped, I think, by the Panthers, who don't have anything to play for, and the Panthers are playing Carolina here. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. I mean, it's not like you can just sit all your starters, but I don't imagine Kachuk's playing. I don't imagine they're going to throw one of the goalies in the pipes that is supposed to be there. So some of the big guys I think are going to be sitting out.
We just talked about Chicago. Anything's possible at this time, in a one-game thing. And if they do put that Alex Lyon guy in, the goalie, anytime I watched him play down the stretch, he was amazing. So
yeah,
these young goalies at the end of the year that get starts, it's amazing how many times they steal a game because nobody knows nothing about them.
Yeah.
The Calgary goalie last night, Dustin Wolf came in. He played great. He looked amazing. Everyone's like, "Oh, why wasn't he in there sooner?" It seems to happen every year. You get those young goalies steal a couple games towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, they need the consistency, right? If you're talking Calgary, if you're talking Pittsburgh, the inconsistency is keeping them out of the playoffs. If you look at a team like New Jersey, is the complete opposite. They shot out of a cannon. They got off to a hot start. They kind of developed as a team as the season went along, and then they caught fire at the end again. And it's almost painful to think that either Carolina or New Jersey is going to end up getting beat by the Rangers. But that is the way that the format goes, right? One of them is going to have to face up again. I think the Rangers are going to get Boston. That's going to be a wild Eastern Conference final.
Well, whoa. Let's Kaylin, let Kaylin jump in here. But Kaylin, speaking about that, would you rather play a hot Florida Panthers team, or would you rather play the Rangers first round?
Yeah, I want to play the Rangers. Here's the reason why is if I'm playing and there's a downside to both teams here because you play the Rangers, you got a headhunting piece of shit like Trouba. This guy is my most despised player in the league now. I think at this point he is an average defender. I have no idea how this guy got the captain down there in New York, but all he does is headhunt. Like he is just Nicholas Kronwall without the ability that Kronwall brought to the ice. It's terrible. But
Yeah,
then
he's had
Florida,
some dirty hits.
but then Florida, you got just a bunch of players that grind. All they do is grind teams down to win. That's all they do, right?
Yeah, well,
That's
it's funny you
Chucks,
say
what do
that
they got?
because
They're
it
the only
wasn't until
players-
10 games ago. It wasn't until 10 games ago they started grinding because when
Yeah.
Pete Chuck, the dad, watched the games, he bashed the Florida team so bad. That's when they were like 3-4 points out of a playoff spot. And he said, my other son's team, Ottawa, that's a team that grinds. This Florida team is soft. That's why they're not in the playoffs. Ever since he said that, they flipped a switch and just went on a fucking roll and started playing like a grinding team. And it's good because it would have been a waste to see Florida not make the playoffs with the amazing season that Matthew Tkachuk had.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to be called out in the media about not looking good or not looking like you're performing when it comes down to the stretch when it comes to playoff time. But I don't know, that team to me is a scary team. I just rather play the Rangers. We played well against the Rangers. Now, mind you, that was when Shirk was not being shirked. The last month that the Rangers had of hockey, Sherson was way better as a goaltender than he was prior to that. So that could be a different game coming in. But we've been well. It's a good divisional matchup. Who doesn't want the Hudson River rivalry to start the playoffs?
Yeah,
I mean, I want to see it. I just think it's disappointing for an early exit on whether it be the Devil. Line yourself up as a Leafs fan. You're going up against the Lightning every year, and you had a great year. And I mean, it's kind of hard to picture this now, but Leafs fans have had 8 straight playoff appearances now, and they're not doing anything with it because they can't get through that Lightning. And I just don't want to see the same fate happen for the Devils.
Well, I'm not worried about the Devils when it comes to the Rangers. I'd be worried about them when it comes to the Panthers. But, man, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. Now, before I forget about this, because you've talked about, end of era down there in Pittsburgh, and you're right, there was an end of era there, the 16-year stretch. And we mentioned Chicago. We completely forgot to mention the end of era that's happened in Chicago that was announced about 5 hours ago from the GM. Did you guys read that? Jonathan Toews will not be coming back. It's official. He's not going to be re-signed. I know the guy seems to be checked out of the game. Since he came back, he actually doesn't look too bad on the ice. Our buddy Mikey's complaining because he's begging for a first overall pick, and they've won a few games down the stretch here. But in the right position, Toews I think is a okay third line center. I'll take him next year in New Jersey. It'll be a nice little pickup. But this is an end. The Chicago isn't going to be Chicago that we remember, right? There's not a single player on that team over the last decade that I think that I can get behind. DeBrincat is gone, right?
You've got everybody. Yeah,
Chicago is 4 years away from even pretending to be the Buffalo Sabres.
Well, it's okay. They had their run. They really had a good stretch there, and they had some pretty good, entertaining hockey when you have Patrick Kane on the ice for as long as
they went all in, and they nailed it. They got 3 cups. So, if it takes them 20 years to rebuild, whatever. I would give my right arm to win 3 cups in 6 years as a Montreal fan. So,
now,
when it comes down to it, they went all in, and they had a great run. But I see no difference between Jonathan Toews and Jason Spezza. When he went to the Leafs and was extremely impactful, even when he was in Dallas. If he goes to a high quality team and plays a third line center like he did, I still think Toews is better than Spezza. So, when it comes down to it, the leadership he brings in, the guy can still play. It's just he's had so many weird injuries and illnesses and all this shit in the last 3 years. He really hasn't played a lot of hockey. So.
It doesn't make sense that this was clearly the plan from the start. Why wasn't he moved at the trade deadline?
So that's what I was leading to that, because Mikey has been very vocal about this. He's pissed, it's kind of funny because for the last 15 years, Mike has been able to say things to our buddy Jeff like he's got hardware, that these boys got hardware, whether it be, individual trophies or Stanley Cups or Olympic medals. These guys have got hardware the whole way through their careers. And I made the joke today that the reason why I didn't take the ride up the road is because he found out it was going to be too expensive to move the hardware with him. But it is surprising. Now, we're on the outside looking in here. Mike's pissed. This could have been a few draft picks.
Well, it was because he was injured, though. That's him being injured complicated things so much. If he was actually playing when the trade deadline was happening, I guarantee you he would have been moved. But
Yeah.
I can't see how anybody was going to be willing to give up a first-round pick for him when he's injured and don't even know if he's going to play.
Well, it wouldn't be a first. I mean,
he's not a first-round pick either way. But I mean, a third-round pick.
Yeah, or even like
you give it.
It probably wouldn't be more than
put him on long term.
Big ass contract he's got there, but not what's done after this year. But is the only way to save this guy's reputation with some Chicago fans is if he retires. Like if he retires, does the fans go, okay, well, whatever, he was hurt, he wasn't around for the trade deadline, we'll look the other way. But if he goes somewhere else on a competitive team, because he's not going to somebody like the Yotes. Like, so if he goes to somebody that's competitive and does well on that team, is it one more, dig at those Chicago fans that have already been pretty pissed and fed up a little bit over the last 2 years with what's gone down with him, right?
They have no right to ever be mad at him. So if they want to be mad at him, they can take it and shove it. He's one of the best captains in NHL history and gave them 3 Stanley Cups. So I think he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
I'm with you. I think that when you've won as much as you have and you've worn the C as long as you have from the get-go of your career and you've repped it incredibly well, I think you can kind of do what you need to do.
Yeah, I think if you think Chicago fan, you're probably thinking like, you're not thinking just the guy that likes the Blackhawks. Like, you're not talking about just Mike. You're talking about, like, the Chicago sports fan. And the Chicago sports fan has been just drugged through the mud their entire lives. I mean, they did finally get their World Series.
That's about it. Except for the Bulls, that's about it.
Yeah, but I mean, since Jordan left, I mean, the Bulls aren't the Bulls.
No, exactly. Well, they were last night.
Yeah, well... That's unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, if you're White Sox, Cubs, Bears, Bulls to a lesser extent, I mean, you look at the Blackhawks and you're like, oh wow, just another guy leaving us high and dry, and what's going to happen next?
Yeah, well, you can't when you have a rebuild like that, and you still have 2 high quality players like Taves and Kane, even for the last 5 years, and have had made no effort to be legitimate. Like, yeah, Pittsburgh obviously they just missed for the first time in a long time, but they have always consistently tried to put players around Crosby and Malkin all throughout these years, even when they knew maybe they weren't going to have a shot to get the cup. They still always brought guys in to make this team competitive. And, I feel like Chicago could have done that a little bit longer than what they did with those guys. And they chose to do a rebuild a long time ago. And then all the scandal that happened with their whole front office and their coaching staff, that didn't help the situation either. So, in my eyes, Chicago's the one that fucked up here. And they gave Jonathan Toews really no reason to be motivated to play for them at all in the last 2 years. So,
with some of them off-season trades, like the trade DeBrincat, like trading him out was just, I don't get it. The kid he's young. You're in a rebuild. Is this not somebody?
They did it with Panarin and DeBrincat. Like getting rid of both those guys, is ridiculous to me. There was they were legitimately still competitive when they traded Panarin.
Yeah,
the guy had like a 40-goal season.
Yeah,
and then they see you later.
And we've seen him go on to be successful everywhere he's gone, right?
Well, exactly. It looks stupid on their part. They've done it, like I said, they seem to have done it several times. They've never addressed the goaltending situation at all since Corey Crawford's left. And, the team, they're just a mess.
Yeah.
Even with all their picks, I mean, even if for some reason they get Bedard, they're a minimum of 4 years away from even like contending for a wild card. So like they're so far away, and it's kind of sad that they ended 2 wild card runs with how far away they actually are. But yeah, I mean,
even get rid of Kirby Dach to Montreal. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Kirby Dach's a great hockey player. Like, thank you. He's 22 years old. We'll take him. Like, there's no reason why a guy that's 22.
I don't get it.
You can't be part of the rebuild. The guy's 22 years old. And you're getting rid of a piece right there. He's a big, strong center with hands, but I don't know. Like I said, they just get rid of everybody.
What did you
it's
refer
ridiculous.
to him as? Did I miss that? You call him a peach?
I said a big, strong center with good hands.
Oh, I thought you said before that. I thought there's a peach right there. I didn't. I was like, what in the hell?
Peace.
I've never heard that before.
Peace. I think he said peace.
Oh, peace.
Well, it is.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the front office signaling exactly what I just said. I mean, Doc won't be there or wouldn't have been there when they're actually going to be competitive with all the guys that are going to have to draft and develop. So why not just do the kid a favor?
Montreal, where you're not doing too much better up the road there, right?
Well, let's jump over to the West just for quickly here. Let's talk a little bit about the Oilers because what the Oilers are doing this year is pretty incredible altogether. Like they they got knocked for years about just being a two-man team. And now they just become the first team since the Penguins with Ron Francis, Yager, and Lemieux all going over 100 points. Like, if you asked me 3-4 years ago, did you ever think Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was going to have a 100-point season?
Not if he was only if he was on McDavid's line all the time.
Yeah, but he hasn't been on his line the whole. It's not like he's been on his line the whole season or anything. They've alternated the lines so much. It's not, you can't even really say it's about that anymore. Like,
Evander Kane being there obviously makes it different. Like the roster is just a lot deeper than it's been in the last. I don't know, since they played Carolina in the Stanley Cup, right? I mean, this
Ken Holland's taken over this team. He is quick. He has slowly made additions. Did we ever think Zach Hyman was going to be a 40-goal scorer, almost like what he is? Like, no, but he is. Kane is effective, like you said. Nugent-Hopkins is having a great year. Obviously, like, to have a guy Draisaitl and Connor McDavid 152 and 125 points. To have almost 400 points between three guys. It's impressive. Their defense is looking great since they picked up Ekholm. He has fit in perfect. Like, Bouchard has really come into his own. I watched him play a lot recently, and you can't say enough about Stuart Skinner. The guy's played phenomenal this year, so we'll see if he can maintain that in the playoffs. But I've watched a lot of Edmonton games being out west, and he's legit. Like, you can't just say this, that he's winning because he's with this team, this high-scoring team. Like, he's really put up some really big games for them. So it's like, I think this team really has a chance to take a run this year.
And they also have depending on how things shake out here, they still have a chance to win the division, right? Like, between them and Vegas tonight, if Vegas loses and this thing or ends up in a tiebreaker, I'm pretty sure that the Oilers have at least 4 more regulation or 5 more regulation wins than they do. So the Edmonton team is in a much better position to make this happen and make this run happen. And again, like, one of those sneaky teams that I wouldn't want to play in the playoffs is the Kings. And you don't want to see a team like the Kings and what you would consider probably your best season in the last 10 years. Well, if you're Edmonton,
they barely beat them last year in 7 games. That was an intense series. So they know them well. And the Kings, every time I watch them, they just continue to surprise me. I just don't expect them to be good, and they just are. So. Yeah, it'd be really huge for them to get that. Like, they play like a lot of big games tonight, like Seattle and Vegas, the Avs and the Jets, Dallas, St. Louis, and Edmonton, San Jose. So, San Jose played last night, so I expect Edmonton to put a fucking whooping on them tonight. But it's crazy. Right down to the last game of the season, like, all these divisions are up for grabs still.
Colorado too, right? Because they play today and tomorrow, and they actually just took a pretty big blow to the roster. And they shut down
dog for the season.
Yeah. So, I mean, not that they're built around one guy, but I mean, that's a pretty big piece for them for the playoffs that they're not going to have around.
So much the last couple of years, though. It's just like they're so used to playing without that guy. Like, he's just so.
He hasn't played a game this season. Right? So it would have been nice to have him for the playoff push for sure.
Yeah, well, speaking of the Sharks, though, Erik Karlsson, like, I don't think we all ever thought that he was going to get back to this form, let alone have a 100-point season. So,
hand him the Norris or what?
Well, you have to, like, 5 defensemen in history have done it. Like, Paul Coffey, Bobby Orr, like, these are the kind of guys that put up these seasons, and I just can't believe it that he put up 100 points. Like, how the hell did that even happen?
On the Sharks too, of all teams.
Yeah, like.
A guy that he should have been probably flipped at the trade deadline, right?
I thought he was going to go back to Ottawa for sure. Yeah. I thought he was going to go to Ottawa for sure. Like, there were rumors of that, but they obviously went with the Chychrun instead. But super impressive that he's done that. I think the playoffs are going to be great, whether we like the format or not. It does set up a lot of intriguing matchups, no matter what, right out of the gate. I really do believe the Leafs are going to get her done this year against Tampa. I think the injuries in Tampa are a lot to overcome as well. The only thing that wins this series for Tampa for me is if Vasilevsky somehow steals it again. But, I really do. And I would just love to see, after this big season Boston's had, and shout out Pasternak too. This is the first time we've had 2 guys go over 60 goals, and, like, I can't remember the last time.
93, 94, I think is what I read, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Or 96, 97, 96, 97, sorry.
Yeah, so it's been a long time since that's even happened. But I would love, after all the heartache, that Leafs fans have had to ruin Boston's season for once this year and see if they can pull it up. But
I
what I'm
don't
hoping
give
for.
a shit about Toronto. Let Boston ride that wave. Knock them the hell out.
Oh,
We'll see
I
you.
hate Boston
we'll
more than
see
anybody
you
in
in
the
the
world.
finals.
I can't stand Boston. I like as
No,
all
I
the
know.
battles I have with them as a Habs fan. I can't ever like Boston. So
No, and it would be a classic Boston thing to have that kind of a season, and I don't think that the Islanders have much of a chance against them, but that's the kind of that's that Columbus knocking out Tampa Bay probably 6-7 years ago when Tampa went on that crazy run, but Columbus ended up rolling. I
yeah,
think they swept them in the first round.
they did four
Yeah.
straight. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and then
yeah.
that was the first one, and then they just went on a tear after that. But yeah, that was they were up 3-0 in the first game of that series too.
Yeah.
3-0, and Columbus came all the way back, and then they just fucking ran the table on them. That.
Yeah.
But if Florida were to win tonight, though, they would leapfrog the Islanders, and that would change those matchups again, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think Florida should be locked in at their spot now. No.
No.
Well, Florida's got a game left, and they're at 92 points. So the Islanders are down at 93.
You're right. No, I did read this today because the Devils can't play the Islanders. That's all I know. So I don't think they can flip. We can
Okay.
only
weird.
match up against the Island or the whoever Carolina's playing right now. Who's Carolina playing right now?
Carolina's playing Florida.
Florida playing Florida tonight.
So yeah, it'd be Florida and Rangers. So yeah, that's what it is.
Well, that's why then. That's why. Because if they were to lose, you would go to first place, and Florida would go to second place, wild card. That's why you can't play them. So no matter what. But that would change who would play. That would make the Islanders right now play Boston, if that were to happen. So as of right now, if the Florida loses, they'll play Boston.
Talk about another grinder team in the Islanders. I don't trust them. I'm not saying that at all, but a team that knows how to grind out their opponents.
Go for that, baby.
And have turned it on in the last little bit here, right? They've done it.
Yeah. I mean, the Islanders, they spent a lot of capital to get some of these guys in there that they got right now. Mm-hmm. And to be the 8th or 7th or 8th team in, I don't know, man. I think that's kind of a flop too. There's a few GMs in this league that need to be moved on from, and I'll speak from home base and say Ron Hextall.
I fucking hate Ron Hextall.
That guy convinced the new Penguins ownership that with a couple of pieces they could make a cup run, and those pieces were Garland and Pooling.
Yeah.
Like, give me a break, man.
Well, yeah, I don't know. If they had gotten to the dance, there's a team that is scary, and it's Pittsburgh. If they had gotten there, and I just don't know if they have the pieces, but it's just because they have the leadership. That's all it is.
Well, that's what I felt. They could have got
moved on from.
And it's not in my nature to be a realistic sports fan, but do you know how many playoff series the Penguins have won since their last World Cup or Stanley Cup?
Was it
0?
One?
Was it one?
Yeah.
Oh, they did get one.
Just one.
Yeah.
One in the last 5 years.
Who was it against? It was a pretty weak squad, if I remember right. You guys were pretty highly ranked, so you guys played a pretty bad team that year.
It would have been 2019. So, we obviously lost to the Canadians in that play-in, indoor tournament or whatever that they were doing. Islanders a couple of times. The Rangers last year. See, I don't remember exactly maybe Columbus.
That would be ugly.
Yeah, that might have been it. Let me see here.
2019? Does that sound right?
Yeah. I was taking a quick look at 2019. Islanders you played in 2019.
Did they win that one or did they lose that one?
Check it right now. You lost that one. But I think it might have been Columbus. I think you were talking. I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think that they lost to a Columbus team that was a wild card team, and then they ended up losing to Washington afterwards. So maybe it was 18? Because they won 6.
It was 2018. You got swept in that series. Just can't
remember. To Washington?
I'm just trying to find out what it was.
Let's see here. So, one Stanley Cup. You haven't won since. Oh, no, you're right. Sorry, next year you won. You beat Washington.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, sorry, Philly. You beat Philly.
Oh, yeah.
Philly.
You know what?
Philly, who hasn't fucking been
Philly,
good
and then
forever,
you lost to,
who's been hanging on
you
by
lost
a thread for what
to Ovechkin
seems
the year
like...
he won the cup.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. I thought, so basically, yeah, one playoff series since they hoisted back-to-back cups.
And you lost in overtime in the 7th game against Washington that year in the 2nd round.
I remember.
I remember.
But that was the year Ovechkin finally got over the hump and finally beat Crosby.
I wouldn't forget, he says.
Well, that was that was finally the year that he beat Crosby and he went on to win the cup. There's one cup that he was going to get because of that win.
So the team.
Well, yeah, because if you look at the 3 or 4 years prior to that, right? Like Crosby was Ovechkin's hurdle. He couldn't get by him.
Oh, I know. That's what I said. Like, I think at one point he had beat him 7 out of 8 times or something like that in any competition, whether it was World Juniors, NHL, Olympics. It didn't matter what it was. He just had his number every single time. It's kind of like Peyton and Brady, almost. That's what it reminded me of. So Peyton could never get by Brady, and that's and the one time he did, he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Hey, that's where I'm at right now. I'm in football mode for the draft, and I am in Blue Jays baseball mode. So I will watch the playoffs, and I will watch it with absolutely no begrudgingness for the first time in a long time, because whether I was watching a second round that we just weren't a part of, or I was biting my fingers at a cabin watching them play the Predators in the Stanley Cup. I mean, all those things are real, but they're all behind us now. That's why what do they say? The windshield on your car is a lot bigger than your rearview mirror. Can't look in the past.
That's good. I like that. Staring at the world through my rear view, a little Tupac. I remember pumping that in my Discman in grade 10 math. I said that I'm the coolest kid in the world listening to Tupac. The Resurrection CD. It was awesome. Let's move along. We'll jump into some baseball here because that's another big hot topic. Our Jays are off to a pretty nice start. Our Jays, not Kaylin's Jays. His team's in the last place, but the Jays off to a beautiful start. They've given us some scares. It looks like they were going to lose a few games, and already it's so nice to see a team digging deep and having comeback wins early in the season like this, because it just sets the table to be able to do that all year. It's when you don't do that early and you get in a bad habit, kind of like the Flames did, of never coming through with a win in a big game or at the end of the game. It just becomes contagious, and it just keeps happening. So to see them do this early, it's great. Like even last night, I thought it was over.
Did either of you guys?
And they keep figuring it out, and like a game or even a play to circle. Like we'll go to our most recent game, which was last night. I mean, they're playing right now. I don't know if it started, but
0-0 right now, sir.
Yeah, if you were looking in September at a game, why we're a game above, say, the Yankees or the Rays, because they're going to come back down to earth, you're going to look at that Kiermaier bunt and be like, 2 years ago, last year, 3 years ago, nobody on the team had the ability to make that bunt, and we could have been looking at 11 innings, but because of that bunt, it put Springer in a position, and the lineup is just so much more versatile and deep. If they can get the pitching sorted out, which seems like paying pitchers in Toronto is the new bugaboo, but as long as they can just score one more run than the other team, I guess that's all that really matters in the whole baseball thing.
So, Shane, did you get the plug on the Vladdy Guerrero bobbleheads or what? The one that came out yesterday. It was bobblehead day, and I saw the friggin' lineup. Massive.
Did I get the what?
What's that?
Did you ask me if I got the plug for it?
Yeah, I wondered if you had it. I know you're a bobblehead fan, a figurine fan. I see some on the wall there behind you. Yesterday was a huge release. I'm sure they'll be going for like $200.
That's Franco Harris behind me. Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm not going to say I'm not a Vladdy fan, because I'm a Blue Jays fan, and Vladdy is.
Right, Rick? He's a Mets fan. We know it.
I'm not a fan of that.
I'm not gonna badmouth Vladdy. I'm just saying I wouldn't drive 2 hours to get me a Vladdy bobblehead. I'm not that dialed in on being a Vlad guy. And overall, I don't know. Just maybe you don't have to get so excited when you catch the ball at first, man. It's your job.
Yeah. Well, when they give him that big old gold glove, why do you not get excited? That thing was massive, man. You could catch a beach ball with that thing.
Yeah,
the Jays got rid of the home run jacket, right? I think I read that coming into the season.
Yeah, they should have. That was stupid too.
They got rid of it. Yeah, you know what? It served its purpose as far as I'm concerned. This was a young team that was learning how to win. It's a fun thing to do. Now it's a serious season. It's time to get down to the grindstone and win. And it's something stupid like that. It's something young kids do. I feel like they've matured from that. But I did like it at first. But every other team copied them and came up with something else after that as well. But the bobblehead itself was sick though. The total splits, that's the only reason I would want it. But I would
with his ball sack on the dirt.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh yeah, it was like fucking straight Van Damme splits. Like it was sick. But we talk about the pitching. Manoah has kind of worried me a little bit. His release has been way off every single game.
Holmes the catch of the year so far this already, right?
Oh yeah, Kiermaier, you can't say enough about the guy. Wow. Just even his interviews are great. The way he plays the game, he looks healthy again. He looks like the Kiermaier I remember from like 3-4 years ago in Tampa Bay.
They used to terrorize us, right? Like,
yeah, well, that's why he came. He said you showed his numbers at Rogers Center that he hits better there than any park in the league, and that was before he even went to the Jays. So, but like his defense looks like it's back. Like he looks so fresh, and he was saying he loves the Canadian national anthem. You see him singing it while he's like. The guy that seems like he's really happy to be there, and those are the kind of guys you want, are the guys that are excited to be there and they're excited to be playing on your team. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I want to ask you about Belt though, because like I'm gonna give my right off the up. I love the Belt signing. I still love the signing, and I think
more now after a couple days ago.
Yeah, but I think that everyone's looking for the guy to hit 300 or hit a bomb, like. The guys that he's kind of replacing in the lineup. It's just not his job. I mean, his job is to keep things calm. We were talking about Jonathan Taves and how he could end up on a team next year and be that leadership guy in the locker room and be the guy to teach people to know how to win. Well, Brandon Belt won 3 World Series with the Giants. And for 1 year, whatever they're paying him, $10 million for him to go out there twice a week and play first for Vlad, you're not losing a ton of defense if you're losing anything at all. You put him out there, at least you can flip the pitches around. The guy's probably going to be a 250 hitter. He's probably still going to hit, 17 home runs and 60 RBIs. And overall, I would put him in the locker room over an immature Teoscar Hernandez or an immature Goliel or Gabriel Moreno or any of those guys. I have absolutely no problem. He's getting buried, and I was talking to a couple guys in a group chat, and they said that the only belt that they like comes from Tim Hortons. And I know Kaylin knows exactly what I'm talking about just from saying that.
Hey, I was a bit concerned with him off the hop. He's had a bad season last year. He's kind of a couple years removed from the belt that was on those World Series teams. But when you see him the other day when he had 3 hits. It just took a little bit of confidence, I think. And obviously I think he was even nerved a little bit, switching leagues as well, coming into a team that has a lot of high expectations as a new guy. I can't imagine it's easy no matter what, especially when you didn't have a good year the year before. But he is a left-handed bat. He is a veteran, and he showed that he can still get his hands around pretty quick on that ball on those 3 hits the other night. So that was the only thing I was concerned about, was whether or not he's going to stall that quickness that he at the bat, but he showed the other night that he does. So that's
when he brings in leadership, will keep him around. I don't know how many at bats he's going to get in August, and I don't know how many at bats he's going to get in September, but I'm sure he's going to have at least 1 or 2 of those key at bats that happen when we get to October, and figure out if you need to throw somebody up there that's going to work the pitcher. I think that he's your guy.
Yeah. Like I said, he's a left-handed bat too, and having him and Kiermaier in the lineup it's made the lineup just flow so much better. It's been fun to watch.
So
has the pitch clock. Sorry, Karen, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm just about to get that. So we're probably about 21 games or 22 games, including the preseason, kind of into the season. So what do you guys think as far as The pitch clock change, the base size changes, the shift changes. I know that Rick, we talked about the pitch clock. I don't know if you got the chance to see the show when we were talking about this, Shane. We were talking about when it gets to playoffs. Do you still implement it, or do you pull back in the playoffs so you have those nerve-wracking moments between the pitcher and the batter that some fans really enjoy?
My argument, Shane, was about the WBC and the way with those that at bat with Ohtani and Trout. And does anybody want a pitch clock in between a bat like that when it is, a big moment in the playoffs? Like, do we want to really be rushing that, or do we want to enjoy the moment a little bit more?
Right.
And that's the only argument I made about it. In the regular season, I love it, yeah. But when it comes playoff time, especially in late 7th, 8th inning, big at bats, and hey, we got to give a base here because the guy missed the pitch clock by a second. And it seems like it could cause problems for me at that point of the season.
No, and that's fair. And if you look at all the other major sports, they all have different rules for the regular season and the postseason. So it wouldn't surprise me if they wanted to whether you want to add a few seconds to the clock or get rid of it altogether. I mean, a rule that doesn't exist in the playoffs now would be the way that they're breaking ties. And don't get me wrong, in the regular season, I don't mind having a guy stand at second.
It could never happen in the playoffs.
Right, exactly. And it never will, just like there's never going to be a 3-on-3 overtime in hockey.
Yeah.
Like, Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals, throw your best 3 on the ice and let's see what we got. Like, there's just no way, right? So I think, if you want to, whether you want to add 8 seconds to each pitch clock or you want to get rid of it altogether for the playoffs, it makes sense. They're just going to have to run it by the TV networks that are obviously paying the bills. And, ultimately, that's what's going on here is the TV networks were losing ratings when it got to the 6th, 7th, 8th inning in those games in June, July, and August, when it is hard to keep up with that if you're not a true baseball fan. And if you could knock a game down to 2 hours and 15 minutes, you're going to bring your kids to the park. You're going to sit down and you're probably going to watch that game. But when there's a game in August, or I can think of a Canada Day game, which went 21 innings, and that's like a 4 or 5 hour game. And, what do you do? I watched it, but
I remember a game we went together. We went to that game against Seattle. It went 15 innings, and I remember Vernon Wells making a diving catch in center field, and Benji Molina walking that off in the 15th inning. And I remember going to that game with you. I think we were there for 6 hours.
So did you guys look at each other at inning 12 or 13 and say, okay, I'm ready to go home now? Or were you guys still enjoying it at 15?
Oh, I was still enjoying it because I was hammered by then. So, we were
I fucking hope so.
But, in the regular season, you don't want to be. You can't. It puts too much stress on the bullpens as well. And with how hard guys are throwing these days, and everything like that, you can't be maxing out people's bullpens, risking a 17-inning game.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one effect of pitch clock that the stadiums are feeling, and I'm pretty deep in the season ticket game, so I kind of know some of the ballpark rules that are going on, even though I'm not in the parks all the time. Clubs are starting to serve until the 8th inning now because the games are going so fast. And their beer sales are actually declining.
Yeah.
So the games have been cut down about 45 minutes. So, you're looking at probably 25 less minutes that you can serve alcohol. How much alcohol can you serve in those 25 minutes? And,
especially when people are all buying 2 at that point late in the game.
Yeah. So that's what's been going down right. I got an email from the Brewers, from the Texas Rangers, from the Minnesota Twins, all extending an extra inning. So, hey, you got to keep your ear to the street. That's how you get things figured out.
Now I know who to go to if I need some tickets.
But with the pitch clock, but it's clearly affecting Manoah. I feel like him getting rushed like he's been. I feel like that is throwing off his delivery. So I think, some pitchers, they love it because they keep in a groove, and some pitchers, they want their time to go through their process. And
then you look at Max Scherzer. He's loving it because he's fucking around with the batter as much as the clock is fucking with him. Like it's some of the stuff that he's done since the clock's been introduced, I've really enjoyed. The guy's got an attitude. I've always really enjoyed that guy anyway, and what he brings to the game. But like what he's been able to do with this new rule so quickly. This is the same guy that basically undressed right when the umps tried to check him last year for the rule change for that. So he's always taken every rule to the extreme, and I really think that's funny about him. But yeah, I enjoy it personally. I said that when it gets to the playoffs, I think anything that's going to make the job harder for the pitcher, and I hadn't seen the Scherzer thing happen yet up until this point, but I think the pitch clock works against the pitcher more than it works for the pitcher, and I think that you get to playoff time, you still want that atmosphere of even in the cold where maybe you can get some hits, and maybe getting inside the pitcher's head is no way you can get some hits doing that.
Well, what's been happening is, like you don't have time for your catcher to call the game anymore, so you don't have a chance to get used to your catcher. So you got guys that are actually calling their own pitches now. And, Bassett comes to mind. He's pitching tonight for the Jays.
I was just going to say that. His first game was rough doing that.
Yeah, so he's trying to make his own calls. So, the worst thing you can do is think too much when you're on the mound, but that's all you have to do. You can't worry about the pitch you're throwing. You have to worry about the next pitch and the pitch after that. That's got to fall on the catcher. That's got to fall on the manager. And right now, that's not something that's happening. So that might have something to do with these big ERAs that we're seeing from Jays pitchers. That's not much of an excuse for the Barrios or Manoas who were there last year, but Bassett, I'm not willing to give the guy a free pass, but I'm also not willing to bury him quite yet because that situation would be tough.
He battled last time, big time. Battled last time. He showed that he has as many pitches as they says he has, and he battled back. So they knew that he wasn't going to be a flamethrower. You need variety on your staff. You can't have a bunch of guys that just throw heat. So I like him. I'm more concerned about Barrios. The guy just serves them up. It's crazy how many balls he just serves up. It's just his breaking balls aren't getting out of the zone at all. So I had a great idea. We saw him sitting there the other night. Just bring in Pedro Martinez to work with this guy. I thought you would like that idea, Shane.
Hell yeah. I'll let Pedro make his next start if he wants.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Just bring him in the pitch. Mark, I'm sure he could still do it. But, we got Pete Walker. Pete Walker's great, but I feel like, something needs to change with this guy because he is so far removed from 2 years ago and the way he was pitching.
Well, what's crazy, too, is, this guy's probably going to end up in the bullpen, right? At this point, and it's way too early. We're still in April, so we're not going to put together our pitching rotation for the playoffs. But
I'm surprised about you talking about baseball this early.
Well, the Penguins are out. So, things I care about right now are pick 17, pick 32, pick 30, pick 49, and a little bit of Blue Jays baseball. That's all I got going for me.
And London Majors.
Well, London Majors when they get going here, but yeah, we're still looking till May 2-4 for that, I think. But yeah, he's not in it, right? You're going to get Hunch and Ryu back, and he's probably. You're probably gonna have a 6-man rotation through the summer.
I didn't even. I guess I know we still have him, but I just have you never hear anything about him. Is it actually realistic for him to be coming back this year?
Yeah. So he got his surgery. Say June last year. So I wouldn't. He'll be pitching before the All-Star break, but I'd say they'll be on a 6-man rotation when he gets back, and kind of see where it goes. Kikuchi, if he can fill innings, great. Gossman is clearly the ace, and luckily he doesn't have an ego about him, because if he did, then this Manoah thing would be whatever. But I would have never started Manoah as the opening day starter. Doesn't really matter. Who cares?
He earned it. No, I don't know. I think he earned it. He earned it last year to get it. It's not going well for him, but
to me, he's just probably the guy that asked more. I think John Snyder was just like, Gossman's never asked. He probably should be the starter, but Manoah keeps begging me, so I'll just throw him out there. Who cares? They all pitch the same amount of games at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, when it comes down to it, it doesn't really matter. They're 1A and 1B to me. I expect Manoah to bounce back. He's not going to pitch like this all year.
I agree. I just don't. I would put Gossman well ahead of him in our pitching rotation, and I think that Manoah would be an amazing number 2 starter. It's just he gets criticized because everybody expects him to be an ace.
Yeah, well, because he made the All-Star game and was in Cy Young voting last year. So when you do that,
Alejandro Kirk was in the All-Star game, and so was Santiago Espinal. So,
well, Kirk should have been. Kirk led all catchers in the American League. Why wouldn't he be in the All-Star game?
He shouldn't even be on the Jays roster anymore. They should have sold way high on him.
If they could have traded him, yes, I would have done that as well. But
he's the only guy on the roster that you want to hit his weight.
Yeah, well, he continues to do it, so I got no worries about him.
What is he hitting right now?
We can worry about. Danny Jansen's batting 100 right now. So.
Yeah, well, hey, again, we had 3 catchers that we could have dealt, and we dealt the only one that was probably worthwhile keeping around. The partial back, so that's perfect.
Yeah. Well, the other team we got to talk about though is the Rays because they're 13-0.
Yeah, do you want to hear a crazy Rays stat?
What's that?
First of all, they've already scored 101 runs, which is disgusting in 13 games. But their run differential is 61. And there's only 4 teams in the American League that have scored
after today.
So there you go, 71. Going into today, there was only 4 other teams in the American League that had even scored that many runs. Wow. And that's no differential. It doesn't even make sense. It's and
they've only given up 30. Yeah, only given up 30 runs.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Wow. I don't of course. This is the way it's always. I feel like it's been my whole life. This. I think year the Jays are supposed to be good. The Rays just somehow are just amazing. It's extremely frustrating.
They're going to go 162-0, and the Jays are going to have 105 wins and be a wild card team.
Well, the Yankees are losing 11-0 right now to Minnesota in the second inning. So I don't know what else.
Wow.
But Ricky Tiedemann, I also saw gets his start today, in Double-A, I believe. So I'm excited about the prospect of him. When I watched him pitch in preseason, I was liking what I saw with him as well. So.
Hey, as long as Tiedemann doesn't become the new Peterson, I am totally fine.
Okay, yeah, or Peterman.
That Nate Pearson guy. Is supposed to be he's supposed to be a top end starter. As far as what we've gotten out of him, he's barely even been a bullpen piece of garbage.
Yeah, it's too bad what happened to him. But Tiedemann reminds me a lot of Chris Sale. When I watched him pitch, his delivery, the left-handed side delivery, kind of the way he does, very unique.
Do you think he pitches at with the big guys this year?
You know the way things go. There's always injuries. Things always happen. I have Barrios keeps pitching the way he is. I can't see that they wouldn't give him a chance the same way they did with Manoah, but we'll see. He's got to do well first in the Myers, and we'll see how that goes for him. But how about those Sox, bud? What's going on with them so far?
Oh, well, we were 500 for a little bit there, and that was fun. But I said this is going to be a transition year. We still made some stupid fucking decisions in the offseason. I still have no idea why we go and let people walk that are hometown heroes back-to-back years and then sign the hometown hero's best friend, or re-sign him anyway. This is not a year that I expected was going to be anything. I walked into this season saying that it was going to be... I just don't think the Yankees are going to be anything either. I think they rode a whole lot of wave of Aaron Judge last year, but I think this was always going to be a Jays year. I'm still big on the Orioles in this division. I know that I'm on the bottom looking up right now. That's okay.
Well, but hey, Shane just said only 4 teams have over 70 runs scored, and Boston's one of them.
I know we've had some. It's
but
just
you've given up 73.
That's right. Which is the same thing that's been happening for the last 3 years in Boston, is that we can't seem to put any type of decent pitching together. Sometimes we get out of really crazy jams offensively, and then the pitcher comes on the next inning and gives up 3 more runs. It's incredible. I don't know. Again, it's
now. You said transition
early on. It's hard for them to get, in my opinion, to get into a groove. I don't find that this season is going to be a season where they find themselves.
Yeah, you said transition year, right? They're in a transition decade, right?
Yeah, it's been a few rough years. Yeah.
Isn't it this is last year they weren't good.
And I've harped about this in the past. The ownership, in my opinion, has been absolute shit. They think they've invested more money in their teams over in
Yeah.
their football clubs over in England than they have in their baseball teams. They've sat here and ridden the wave of the Red Sox lore and collected season ticket sales now for as long as they've owned it. And then suddenly, again, they let Mookie Betts should have never left town. Like it just Xander Bogaerts should have never left town, right? Like it's just stupid.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, you guys are still living in the lore of Kevin Youkilis, and the Red Sox owner actually went and bought, well, the ownership group, they actually own the Penguins now, so they're trying to fuck us over too.
well, hey, it'll happen, man. You'll be complaining the same way that I am.
It's happening. They're already doing it.
Much like the Devils ownership is about to buy the Washington Commanders.
I was just going to bring that up. Steve messaged me today, and he's like, how bad do anybody that's a Washington Commander fan feel right now that you're getting bought by Philly?
By Philly, yeah.
Like, that sucks big time. But yeah, I did want to mention as well, though, the opening day game and the festivities. That was the best opening day ceremony I've ever seen in my life. I don't know, I had goosebumps the whole time, from the flag to even the national anthem, to the new stadium, the look, all the money they put into that. Just everything looks so much better. It looks more enjoyable to watch a baseball game there. And everybody seems to be so excited to be part of the team. The lineup looked great. Just that opening day had such a great feeling, to start the season off with. So kudos to them for that one.
Yeah, that's only phase one of the renovation, right? Like phase two, I haven't seen it. I don't know if they've announced it, but what they should be trying to do is like what Atlanta did and Kansas City and Cincinnati. Like if they could build like a bunch of like bars around Rogers Center. I mean, we're not talking about St. Louis Wings. No disrespect to St. Louis Wings, but like build like some actual places around there so that it's an event to come down to the Rogers Center. It's an event, and then you got all those cool new places inside. Like that changes the atmosphere, that changes the fanship, and that gets new people in the park.
Yeah, well, they said you could pay $20 right now, and you could just walk around to all the the public areas. So the bars that they did put out the Corona top, the little ledge in left field. All these general admission areas, you pay $20 and you can just walk around with a beer, and like that alone just feels like it's so much more sociable and enjoyable. And so, good. Looks like a good start for sure. I just wish I could go to a game whenever I wanted.
Yeah, well, I mean, all sporting events should just take the seats out. Like everything should be like standing wild, as if you're going to a concert and like you got floor seats. Like wherever you go is where you go. Don't sit down. Let's get wild. Let's figure it out.
Yeah. No.
If you want to sit down and watch sports, stay at home.
Yeah. Exactly. Perfect. But all right, let's move along. Let's get some NBA real quick in. Talk about the Raptors last night. Extremely disappointing. 19-point lead. 19 missed free throws, I think he said, or something like that. 50% from the line. There was the third most free throws missed in a playoff game in NBA history. Yeah,
I got a theory too.
Yeah,
what's the theory?
Not DeRozan's daughter though.
No, you know what? I was looking or watching the game and I thought, all right, wow, they just fouled him to tie the game. He's a professional, and Pascal Siakam, he clearly had plans to go somewhere. He already knew the outcome of the game. He didn't want to be there. Of course he's going to botch both of them. Like, you can't just botch one, right? You have to botch both of the second. Yeah, but he missed 2 and 3 to make it so that there was no way that they could come back and tie. And he's probably sitting on the beach somewhere, enjoying his life. Doesn't give a fuck.
Didn't want to pay the cancellation.
His assistant's packing up his Toronto apartment. Is he going to play there next year? I don't know. Don't think so.
I'm still disgusted at DeRozan's daughter. I'm disgusted that he would let her do that the whole game. I understand that fans can cheer and they can boo all they want, but that was totally unacceptable. If that was my daughter and I was sitting courtside and that was my daughter screeching like that the whole game, I would be embarrassed, and I would have dragged that kid out of there by her fucking ear.
Hey,
I don't give a shit. I don't care. He wants to lie. You scream this stuff.
Let me paint the picture for you though, Rick. Like, think of a job that you got fired from. And you brought, you want to bring in like hypothetical daughter or your girlfriend and just be like, be as obnoxious as you possibly can to drive these people up the fucking wall.
Yeah, that's fine. But how about a job that you had about 4 years to get the job done and you didn't? So that usually what happens at a job. When you fail 4 years in a row, you usually get fucking fired. So when it comes down to it, DeRozan's career was made by Toronto. We drafted him. We made DeMar DeRozan. We made him the superstar that he is. We gave him that team. We gave him the keys to the truck, and he didn't fucking get it done. Yeah, it was LeBron that beat us, but there were several times where he choked in the playoffs and did fuck all. Bottom line is, we fucking gave him 10 years. He fucking lived there. Still says he loved the city. I get it, but if you have to stoop to that level to win a fucking play-in game, to pull your daughter out of school to come sit front row behind the Rogers broadcast, and not only that, to have to listen to that through the whole fucking game, it's embarrassing, and he should be embarrassed. And I hope he gets his ass kicked by Kyle Lowry on Friday night in the Heat.
Maybe his daughter still lives in Toronto. Like, yeah. You never know.
That was like 4 years ago.
Yeah, but still.
No, he flew her in. I read that. He flew her in, and it's already been announced she's not going to be at the Heat game. So it's obviously was a ploy, go against her. I just think it's embarrassing. There's no coincidence they go 50% from the free throw line with that happening. But all things considered, they had a 19-point lead. They shouldn't have blown that, but they did. If Jakob Poeltl can remember how to hit a layup, maybe it had another 6 points in that game. He forgot he was 7 foot tall and couldn't dunk. But when it comes down to it, 19-point lead, there's no excuses. But we would have got slaughtered first round by Milwaukee anyway, so it really doesn't matter.
If you look at the Raptors team, and you got to reflect now, and you're the GM. Realistically, who's actually back on the roster next year? I mean, obviously Barnes.
Nick Nurse might not even be back. So,
but that's not the worst thing, right?
I looked into this. Is there I know there's been many rumors in the past, but is the GM coming back?
The GM, the coach,
I think the GM kind of already missed his gravy train, right? He had his opportunity to run and cut bait and go try and rebuild somewhere else, and I'm sure that he could get hired somewhere, but he's not going to get the hot job anymore.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, though, I don't even think this team's that bad. We had the third most games missed due to injury. We had the third amount of starting lineups this year. This is a core that was not playing together for most of the year. I still think Nick Nurse did a great job with the team. I don't think we would have beat Milwaukee by any means, but I do think if this team's healthy, that we finish ahead of the play-in. I really do. But when it comes down to it, they'll probably end up blowing it up. There's so many rumors, but Nobi going somewhere. I don't know, Fred VanVleet. He's going to be in his third or fourth year of that contract now.
Well, that contract that expires this year.
Oh, so yeah, so it's
he's gone. They've already offered him an extension. He turned it down.
Yeah, well, good luck somewhere else, because I don't see. You are that's another guy where without the Raptors giving you the ability to play like you did, you're not playing anywhere else. It's not fucking happening. And you're a small point guard, and your threes were way down this year. So good luck.
Look, right now, if you're putting your starting five, because I think you only got 5 guys left under contract next year. You're looking at Precious Achiuwa and Malachi Flynn and the 2 guys that the big guy from Arizona that they drafted this past year, and Scotty Barnes, they're almost in a position that they have to trade OG and hope that they can get a couple firsts for him. And that they gotta do something to put talent there, or they're going to be in a position where they're going to be 4 or 5 years behind again.
Yeah, but I guess that's the price to pay when you win a championship. So I'll still ride that for a couple more years.
Oh yeah.
But hey, the Lakers, they survived a really big scare the other night. I actually turned that game off. I thought the game was over. I saw it was a 3-point game with 1 second, and somehow a foul. And he did make all 3 of the free throws, like Siakam should have done. But they ended up winning in overtime, so they survived that scare. But we got the Thunder and Minnesota, and the Bulls and the Heat. Do any one of those teams have a chance? I really like the Thunder. I really like what Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's done this year. Gotta love what what he's doing as a Canadian. So,
speaking of gravy trains being done, is the hype over on Zion Williamson? Can we fucking finally admit that? I've never bit into this pie the whole time he's come into the league. This guy cannot stay healthy.
He did.
Skips out on a play-in game when he says that he is 100% healthy but not 100% mentally
He said
ready.
he just wants to play, though.
Just fucking play the game that you're getting paid $20 million a year to do, pal. That everybody said that you were going to be the point guard. Or this guy's going to. Remember he played point guard for like all of 3 weeks before he got hurt again, and it actually was really effective there for that duration of time. And everybody said he was going to change the position as this Zion Williamson playing the point. Well, he hasn't been able to play basketball since. It's ridiculous. I'm totally over this guy.
They got this like wild contract with him too, right? Like this new extension.
Yeah.
And there's a weight clause in it. So anytime he has to stay under 300 pounds, and if he goes over 300 pounds, like say like 310, 320, 330, whatever it is, his guaranteed money starts to shrink. Like it's not guaranteed money. Like they're paying him guaranteed money to stay under 300 pounds. If he goes over 300 pounds, his money starts to go away.
And how is this any different than the Kyler Murray contract when it came to study time, right? Like, there are reasons that teams put this into contracts. It's not just to be fucking funny. Obviously, this guy can't keep his weight under control. We see him look great 1 week, and then he comes out the next week, he suddenly gains 60 pounds. It's incredible how much this guy's weight fluctuates. He's an incredible basketball player. I'm not going to say that. The reason I can't trust him is he can't play basketball longer than 20 games straight. It's ridiculous. And again, like we talked about the contract, his team is completely hampered. There's already been rumblings about him wanting to maybe get out of there after signing the deal. But I can't believe that you come out with a soundbite that says that you're 100% physically ready, but you're not 100% mentally ready, so you can't play. You play at 70% mentally ready, man. What have you been doing for the last months? Go into some sort of meditation state and figure it out. You're in a play-in game. Like, figure it out.
Yep. Well, yeah, a play-in game that they could have easily won. And when he was in the lineup, this team was, a top 6 team in the conference easily.
Yeah.
They got great, and then fell after that.
They set a NBA record for being the first team to hold the number 1 seed at one point and not qualify for the playoffs.
No way.
Wow. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So
and that's got to be obviously after a certain amount of games as well.
Yeah. I don't know the exact. I think it was midway point of the season because if my memory serves me, they were about 40 games in when they were the top seed in the West. But
it was at least 30 games. Yeah, it was at least 30 games that they were in for sure when they were first played. Yeah, and like I said, when he goes out, obviously everything falls apart with that team because they do have a lot of good pieces around that team, but they just don't have a number 1 guy when he's not in the lineup. So that's we'll see. Obviously, he's pure Greg Oden. That's all it reminds me of. It's just fucking every time he gets in, gets hurt.
Well,
fucking
Greg
plays a
Oden
couple
couldn't gain
games.
2.5 pounds if he tried. That was part of his issue too.
Yeah, I do like this play-in thing though, eh?
You like the play-in? I'm enjoying the play-in too.
Yeah, I think that they're obviously the college football playoff is expanding to 12, but I would have preferred if they did like a few play-in games. Like, pick the top 4 still, and then do play-in game here, and then whoever wins each of the play-in game plays the top 4.
Yeah, no, I like these play-ins as well. Like, it's, I don't know, it makes it interesting, and then the team that does get that spot is going to be a lot more hungry to have to get those, and hopefully give the first and second place team a run at that point. But,
well, it's good business too, right? Like, who's going to talk about the 9 and 10 seed? Like, who would be talking about the Raptors and the Bulls right now if it wasn't for that?
Well, and it gives those teams a chance to get a home playoff game as well.
Right.
They're probably not going to get the whole playoffs, right?
The Raptors got to host a home playoff game and still blow it.
Yeah. But this is the way that team was all year, though. They couldn't play 4 quarters the whole fucking year. The amount of times I watched the Raptors this year and they were winning after halftime or even after the third quarter, it's unbelievable. They just could not play 4 quarters, and it killed them all year long. But like I said, I think that comes down to injuries. It comes down to comfortability playing with each other and just not having the go-to guy. And, Siakam is sometimes, but then he looks like an idiot and he can't dribble and he messes up. So not having a go-to guy, it's killer. You don't have a real guy that can cut through the lane, that can create his own shot. And, it shows when you really need somebody in the last 5 minutes of a game when nobody can do it. So, but
no.
Yeah. I don't know if we're finishing up here, but I had a question for Rick.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I'm gonna talk to you on next week's show. So I want to know who the Raiders are picking in the draft.
Well, if it was my choice, it'd be Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
If we could somehow get him.
You're an A-Rod fan, eh?
Well, like I said, I'm not a big college guy, right? So like I don't like know a ton, but from what I have seen and what I've watched, I really there's something about that guy I really want. And I really want that Anthony Richardson guy. So I really hope that they can find a way to make that happen. I've heard so many different things of different positions they're going to draft. I just, I hope it's an offensive person at this point, because every time we draft someone on defense, it never fucking works. So
I'll say Anthony Richard is like a crazy athlete, and he hasn't played a whole lot of quarterback, but I mean, he can maybe develop into one if you look at, like, if you consider like Trey Lance still a project or whatever. But I would say that he is the transformer version of Jamarcus Russell.
Okay. So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Man,
it's probably like I think the football ability is about the same quality. I think Richards will probably pay more attention in the playbook or whatever. But I mean, overall,
if you're better shape from what I've seen,
yeah, well, that's what I mean. He's transformer. If you're looking for a guy, like, I'd say maybe trade back a little bit or trade back into the first round later on and get Hayden Hooker, because you don't need him to play this year, because you got Jimmy G anyway.
And
that's why I said Richardson as well, because I don't expect him to play at all this year. I do actually, because Jimmy's going to get hurt before the fourth game probably. So, but the problem with Richardson
is he threw less than 500 college passes.
That's what I'm telling you. I said this on the show. This guy, his hype is literally because he got the Florida fucking logo, and they had a semi-decent all right at 6 and 7. Like, that's the only reason this kid has got any type of hype.
I've watched him play. There's something about him I like. You know the way I am, boys. I don't give a shit about stats. I don't care about anything. If I see something I like in somebody, then I like them. If I see something I don't like in them, then I don't like them. And
100%.
It's very simple that way. And there's just something about that guy. I would like to get him and try to develop him.
Will Levis? Is that how you say his last name? Levis?
Will Levis, yeah.
Every time I saw that guy, Rick, I'm like, that's who Rick wants, because he's going to call him Bo Levis Butthole.
Well, fuck, I know. I got enough buttholes up here, man. Like, I don't need another one. So, but that's the guy I keep hearing we're going to get is Will Levis. So I don't know much about him, but he seems like a safer pick.
I think you'll be happier with him long term.
The Texans are absolutely in love with that Will Anderson kid, and it's going to flip the draft on its head if they take him number 2, man.
That's all hype, man. That's all hype. They're trying to collect the draft.
Though, that they could take that kid and they could trade back into the first and try and get Levi. That's an option I think is really good for them. I hate to see it, but
what's happening right now is they're trying to position the Cardinals, who are right behind them, to jump them and take an extra pick for that one spot, because they know that the Cardinals aren't taking a quarterback either way.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to say that, and I mean, we could probably do this all night. I don't want to drag out too far here, but I'm going to say that it's more likely that the Cardinals end up trading to 2 and then trading that pick to the Titans. And the Titans go up there and probably grab CJ Stroud.
Wow. I think that they are linked to the top 3 quarterbacks no matter what, but that's a likely scenario, Shane.
Yeah. It's like I said, I just wait for the draft and then wait for it to happen, then I figure out everything after that. Because if I try to do it before, it's just way too much for me. But before we get out of here, I did want to touch real quick on the Masters. Just because there was quite the battle between LIV and PGA. Top 5, you got 3 LIV guys and 2 PGA guys. But John Rahm comes through in the clutch. I don't know if you guys watched any of it, but it was a pretty entertaining Masters. Probably the worst weather I've ever seen at the Masters in my life.
Yeah,
I have never seen weather that bad. And poor Tiger Woods, love him or hate him, it was like the worst thing that could have possibly happened to him was that type of weather happening. Still made the cut. Still impressive. People can say what they want about him. The guy played like 3 rounds in the last year, and he still made the cut at the Masters. So it just goes regardless. Like that's impressive to me.
What I hate about that,
there's nothing to hate about Tiger Woods unless you're married to him.
Exactly. I love Tiger. I do have a beef though with that cut thing. If the weather delay had lasted at 8 more hours or 9 more hours, and his leg was affected, he probably couldn't finish out the round and make the cut. I don't know like how that would have happened for him. Like it just seems like if you're gonna make yourself withdraw the very next day, it's shitty that the guy that played behind you isn't gonna be able to make it because you're withdrawing injury. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if the weather hadn't happened, then he probably would have been able to play the next day regardless. So the whole weather thing was completely fucked everything, and that pissed me off. But Phil the Thrill, baby, love him or hate him, shoots his best final round at the Masters in his career at 52 years old. Yeah, and this guy, I've been watching Live Golf a little bit here and there when it's been on because they got music in the background. It's pretty enjoyable. They got team events, shit like that. And Phil has been fucking horrible. Like, he has been horrible every single time I've watched him play. And then out of nowhere, this guy just goes on a fucking tear and shoots like 8 under on a Sunday at Masters and finishes second. So that was super impressive. Love to see Koepka lose all the time, so love that failure. So I just wanted to wrap that up. Last thing, I just want to mention Adesanya beating Pereira on the weekend, getting his title back.
Mocked the guy's child.
What's that?
And he mocked the guy's child.
Yeah, that was I'm not a big fan of Adesanya to begin with. I did not expect him to win that fight. I was super impressed that he did have the power to knock Adesanya or Pereira out. That was but good for him though. Not too often a champion loses after a reign like that, and then comes back the next fight and gets it back. So I was super impressed on his part for that. And just announced Jake Paul and Nate Diaz in August. I hope to God that Diaz gets his ass kicked because I can't stand him. So, but just wanted to touch on that. We got another Jake Paul fight coming up, and super excited on that front. But boy, we covered a lot today. I think that's one of the more longer ones we've done. Shane, you stuck around, so thanks for sticking around. Bud.
Hey, once we get chatting, I can't get out of here. You know that.
Yeah, I know exactly. Once you start, it's like start with the Volkswagen, baby. Once you start it up, it don't stop. So.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, guys, and hopefully we'll talk next week. Shane, you're not going to be on next week, but hopefully we get you after that.
Great job.
All right.
Later.
Thanks for having me, boys.